Hello and welcome to Family Tech, where you get to be the tech expert of your own home. So, we are talking to Holly Reid today, and I'm really excited. I've wanted to have this conversation for a while because I think teaching kids finances, learning finances yourself, all the technology, there's so much out there. And I just totally want to hear all about all of the technology that we can use to get our finances in order. So let us know all about who you are, Holly, and what it is you do.
Absolutely. So, hi everyone, Holly Reid of the Master Playbook, and I am on a mission really to equip the next generation to master money, but more importantly, to empower parents, especially those who are watching today, to really give your kids the financial head start that they deserve. And so, the way that I typically work with people is having conversations just like this with Sarah today. But we host money camps. We have an ever growing list of financial literacy, financial education resources. Just to get people to start these conversations because it is so, so important.
Yeah, and your website is a huge wealth of knowledge. So it's just themasterplaybook.com, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so definitely check that out. We will have that in the description of the video. So make sure you check that out when you're done watching all of the awesome information that Holly will give us. So first, let's kind of start a little easy. What are your favorite apps to manage finances?
Yeah, so this is my personal response. So a couple of years ago, I became like really obsessed with tracking my net worth. And so one of the apps that I fell in love with was it's called Empower. It used to be called Personal Capital, but like most apps, you can put all of your link all of your accounts to it. But with the focus for me was really just tracking my net worth. I started reading all these statistics about women, about African Americans, about all the things and what our net worth was going to be and what people projected it to be in the future. So I became just really obsessed with trying to be above the average and not hit some of the statistics that are like overwhelmingly shocking. But I think like the average American's net worth might be somewhere around 120,000. So I heard about personal capital, I'm sure from a friend or from the personal finance community, and became really obsessed over it probably the last 5 or 6 years. So that's one of my favorites. Another one, just practical, everyday budgeting, managing your finances. I really like mint.com.
I do use
It's
Mint. Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm prepared to talk about men and what I really like about it and then what I don't like about
Yeah,
it.
sure.
But
If you want to get into that, that's totally great.
yeah, so Mint has been great, and it's actually one that I refer to a lot of people. One, because it's free, right? You can access it on the desktop, and one of the things that I really like about it, but it's also kind of the con as well, is that especially early on when I first started using it, it would highlight certain areas in my budget, in my spending, where I was paying more than the average, right?
Mm.
So I'll give an example. Like I think it sent me a notification once about um, uh, you're paying more for car insurance than typical people pay in your city, in your area, like in your zip code. And I was like, huh.
Yeah. Like,
So
hey.
yeah, so that was to me, I was like, interesting. Well, let me go check that out. And it really forced me, it was like a gentle reminder that I should check and make sure I'm getting the best rates on the things that we absolutely have to have, like car insurance. The downside of that is it will also promote, oh, why don't you open a credit card? And it'll promote other things that I don't necessarily need to be promoted,
Yeah, right.
on this journey of trying to stay, financially focused. And so it can be a pro because it highlights things like that. But the con is they make their money from advertising. That's how they stay free. So they will push and promote. And so if you aren't disciplined, if you aren't the type of person to say, another credit card, no thank you, you could find yourself, opening up more accounts than maybe you need to.
Yeah, if you don't pay for a product, you are the product.
That's
So
right.
that's
That's absolutely right.
totally makes sense. Those are great. Any others? I do love Mint. I've heard of Personal Capital. Good to know that the name is now Empower.
Yes.
So
New
that's
logo, everything.
yeah. I love when they change it up. You're like, wait, is this the same thing that I used to
Right.
have? Yeah. Any others that you really like?
Others that I like are, I really like Acorns. I don't know if you've heard of Acorns,
Uh-huh.
but
Yeah.
it's an app where it will, when you use your everyday debit card, it'll round that purchase up. And, once you hit a certain threshold, it'll deposit it into an investment account for you, right? So I like that. And the reason I like that, because it kind of promotes that set it and forget it. It's investing on your behalf. My husband and I, we're actually going through a home renovation. And I was I was like, okay, where's some extra money that we might have? And I went to my Acorns account, and probably, I mean, this is over years, but I had well
Sure.
over like $4,000 or $5,000 in that account from just me setting this up, forgetting about it, letting it do their thing. I didn't have any other real big savings goal or purchase for the money. So
Mhm.
we were able to add that to our renovation budget, which has been fantastic.
Don't you love that when like you set something like that up and then like down the road you're like, "Oh yeah, that's right. I have this money." And you're like, "Oh, I can use this for my renovation. That worked out really well."
Absolutely, absolutely, it came in timely, and it's another reason why I was like, well, I could just withdraw all the money and close it out, but I'm like, absolutely not. I'm going to keep this thing going because
Yeah.
you never know. It could be your emergency fund. It could be for a lot of things, specific savings goals. So yeah, so Acorns, it's a winner.
Yeah, yeah, I like that one too. There was one that was similar too, and I don't know if it's still around because it's been a while since I've set it up. It was like called Capital, but it was spelled with a
Yep.
Q.
Q
Yeah, yeah.
Capital. Yep. I actually I have that one, and why did I stop doing it? I think I stopped because I was an early adopter. Well, I'd like to think I was an early adopter to that one.
I'm sure you were.
Uh,
Yeah.
but somewhere along the way they started charging a fee, and I
Mm,
wasn't using the app enough
yeah.
to to offset the fee. So I was just like, because just as a personal finance advocate, as someone who is always looking for tools and resources to share with the families that I serve, I test a lot of these things, right?
Yeah.
So I have a bunch of stuff on my phone, and constantly testing it and trying to see what do I like about it, what don't I like about it. And so yeah, Q Capital was one of the ones as well.
Yeah, I think when I stopped using it, like something broke between them and my bank account, and I could never like get my bank account
Mm,
re-added. And then I was like, "Ah, forget it, I'm done."
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's one of those things that if it's not easy to use, if it's
Right,
not easy to maneuver, if it's not easy to connect to your things, then it's like, you know what, that's more work than I'm willing to do.
right.
So yeah. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Any others that we missed off the top there?
no, if I had to pick, those would be my personal favorites, my top picks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about budgeting. I know Mint does have some budgeting features. I'm not a super fan of like the way that Mint runs the budget. So what are like specifically budgeting apps would you
Yeah.
recommend?
Some budgeting apps. Um, There are there are so many. So
I know.
I'm trying to think of the acronym. So YNAB.
You need a budget, yeah.
Yes, you need a budget.
Uh-huh.
That one is very popular among
Mhm.
moms.
Yeah.
I've heard so many moms using that one for budgeting.
Mhm. I've heard the
Um,
same. I haven't. I mean, I've set it up like you. I like to test all the things, but so I
yeah,
have set it up once, but I definitely don't use it regularly.
I'm trying to think of some other ones because, to be honest, Sarah, I am old school in this particular area when it
Yeah,
comes to finances. So, like, I use Mint, but I may go update it and take a look at it maybe once a quarter in mint.com
same. Yeah.
just to like adjust some things. Uh, but I'm old school where I use, like, I'll pull out an Excel spreadsheet in a minute.
Well, yeah.
Uh,
Let's talk about that. Is I love a good Excel spreadsheet.
So I the Excel spreadsheet. Now I check that more often.
Yeah.
Like I have a monthly budgeting meeting where I'm looking at things, especially while we're going through this renovation, right? Because things are starting to go over what we
Right.
projected, or
Weird with a
right,
red.
exactly. You think you're gonna pay, so I'm like, okay, where can we squeeze, or where can I spend less on this month in order to like cover that expense, or to save it all up so that I can pay off the credit card by the end of the month. So yes, my Excel spreadsheet with my income, expenses, and then I have my baseline of my utilities. I'm one of those money nerds where I try to create as much consistency as possible and automation. So, like, if my utilities can be the same every month, I'm talking to the company, like my power company. Um, they call it budget billing, where they'll just look at your average over the past 12 months. Whatever that average was, that's what they'll charge you for the next month, 12 months.
Yeah.
And then they'll readjust, right, every year of your anniversary. So, anything that can be the same, I just set that baseline. And then, of course, you have your discretionary items like food, eating out, shopping, entertainment, vacations, all of those things. But I love Excel.
Yeah.
But context, I am a CPA, I'm an accountant by
Yeah.
nature. So, Excel came easy to me. It was something I've been trained in for years. So
Yeah.
that's why I use it. But I will say there are a ton of budgeting apps out there. And I think the key for anyone who's watching and like, look, which one should I use? I mean,
Yeah.
you really have to do the homework yourself and see what works best for you. Like, you have to try it, see what works best. Again, I know I mentioned Mint earlier, but it's because it's free. A lot
Right.
of these apps may be 99 cents a month or $4.99 a month. So you just have to go and take a look and see, read the fine print, look at how much it costs, and see if it would work for you.
Yeah, and I think, budgeting style has, like, a lot to do with that too. So, if you are, like, an
Mhm.
envelope budget person, you might wanna use, the Dave Ramsey one, Every
Yep.
Dollar.
Every dollar. Yep.
Right, or, you need a budget if you have a different style. So, like, if you have a specific budgeting style, maybe, like, do a little Google search, best app for this budget style,
Yep.
and try those ones out.
No, no, you're right. Yes, you're absolutely right. I was trying to think if I knew of which ones, because when I think of budgeting style, of course, you have the envelope method, right, which is going to be great for people who want to use cash, right? So they are big cash proponents. They want to be really disciplined around their spending, and so the envelope method is great. But if you're like um, a younger person, you are not going to want to use the envelope method. Like, a lot of them don't, right? It could work for them as well.
They
But
don't even know what, like, a dollar bill is. I don't.
oh, bless their heart. I am so concerned for this next generation because, with this whole cashless society just taking over, they have so many options. But okay, so we were talking about the envelope method. Of course, we
Mhm.
have the 50-30-20 rule where, the 50% is for your essentials, your needs, 30% goes towards your wants, and then 20% towards savings, investing, even debt repayment would fall in that 20%. So that's another popular method that I know a lot of people use.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think if there are any budgeting apps that speak directly to it, but
Yeah.
nothing is coming to mind for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can Google that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, not you, but I mean, the listeners. Go ahead
Yeah.
and Google just Google the budget plan that you have and then, like, best app, but
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
there's so
Um,
many.
yeah. Just like you were saying, with every dollar,
Yeah,
Dave Ramsey and his community, they really promote that zero based budgeting, where you give
right.
every dollar a job.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so that works really well for people. When I first started out, um, Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, they were like the gurus of the
I
time.
remember Susie Orman, yeah.
Yes. So I was following and reading everything that they were kind of putting out. And then as you grow older, as you have more experience managing your money and going through different things, you tailor it to what works for you, right? And so I did
Absolutely.
find myself tailoring a couple of things that they proposed in life.
Yeah. Same, same, same. Like, I'm not like a Dave Ramsey, like,
Yeah, die
follower.
hard. Yeah,
Yeah, like, I definitely deviate on many things,
yeah,
but I think especially for somebody who's, like, trying to dig themselves out, like, out of a big hole, I mean, I
right.
think it's a good place to start to, like,
Yeah,
be super strict like that.
yeah.
But as you're mentioning, as you learn how to, manage your money better, then you can, tailor it to what works best for you.
Yep, absolutely.
So let's talk about investments. You were talking about 20% investing or debt repayment. Are there some like we talked about Acorns, which kind of can be an investment app, but
Yeah.
what other like specifically investment apps like have you used or like?
Yeah. So for investing, honestly, I'm old school
Yeah.
in that, I have my 401k, I have my basic brokerage accounts,
Mhm.
right? I have um, the Roth IRA where you do the traditional IRA or the Roth IRA. So beyond that, like I don't use many apps.
No, that's fine.
Um, I'm in the process of learning to trade.
Hmm,
So I am paying more attention to the brokerage accounts.
yeah.
Popular apps aren't always the best apps. So do your research.
Right.
So, of course, for example, Robinhood had their whole debacle.
Robinhood, yes. I was trying to think of like
Yeah.
what's that one like stock app? I remember now. Yeah,
Yeah, so
Robinhood.
I am personally not promoting Robinhood. I came on my phone to see what other investing apps I have on here,
Yeah.
and I don't.
And I don't.
I
Well,
don't.
it
I
can
have
be.
Robinhood on here because I have money that I need to take out of there.
Yeah. Like,
But
I had Robinhood for a while, but
yeah,
I closed that a while back. I don't even remember how long ago, but maybe I still have money in there. I don't know. I might have to download that and look it up. But
yeah. When it comes to investing, I really want families to go back to the tried and true. Like there's been so much news and so much unsettling news in the whole financial world with banks, being bought out and failing, and
right.
families wondering, okay, can I go get my money out? Is it safe? Luckily, FDIC it insures it for most Americans. Most people don't have over $250,000
Right.
just sitting in a bank account, so most of America is safe in that
Like, I just
regard.
have that, like, right behind my castle, right? I'm just kidding. No,
Right.
totally
So
kidding.
yeah, the families I work with, they weren't
Yeah,
worried about
I'm
when I
kidding. I
go
do
get my
not.
money.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I really, again, I'm old school, Sarah. So I'm like stick with the ones that we know, the ones that have been um, you know, great, have a great history. So your Fidelities, Charles Schwab, your big people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I see
and it
Amy. Amy is like, I use Fidelity. I'm like,
yeah.
yes, I use Fidelity too.
Yeah. Um, like, and that's the one thing, it's kind of intimidating for somebody who is not used to like, if I go on to fidelity.com and, like, try and sign up for an account, It feels really intimidating. Like, how
Mm,
can somebody, like, get over that?
yes, absolutely. They should follow people like me.
Perfect. That is a great answer. I love it.
Yeah, so I talk to parents. When I talk to parents about money, again, I am trying to empower them to give their kids a financial head start. And I know a lot of it is even new for some of the parents. Like they don't even have things in place. So if I can explain it in a childlike way for kids to understand, then you can learn it from me as well, right? Directly. Some and I know there can be sometimes a lot of shame
Mhm.
with parents, like, I'm 38, I should know these things, and it's
Right.
okay if you don't, right? So I say this all the time. It's difficult to master something you've never been taught, right? But in this world where information is literally at our fingertips, we no longer have that excuse, and we can't lean on this ego or this pride of I'm just going to fake it my way through. No, we have got to, take a step back, humble ourselves, start learning. Listen, they have kids books on learning how to invest. Start with the kids book if it's intimidating. Share with other people, but there are so many even communities now that talk to adults about how to get started with investing. That's one area where I think we are just so far behind, and where I know I can make a difference if we just start talking about it. So I pitch it as, all right, what are the ways you can start saving and investing for your kids
Yeah.
without breaking your own bank? And so when they learn how easy it is, how affordable it can be to even do it as an adult, obviously our kids are going to be in a greater position because they have the luxury of time, so that the deposits we make today can really benefit from the power of compound interest. But I say yesterday was the best day to start investing, but today is the next best time, right? So just
Perfect.
getting started now and looking for those easy ways. I'm actually, let me pull up something real quick. I'm
Yeah,
on my
please.
computer and I'm pulling up a blog post that I did sometime last year. But what I did is I created a list of money books by age that would be good to introduce your kids to money management, to start talking to them about money management. But it can also be a great resource for parents to take a look and learn right alongside your kids.
You can even pull that up in the screen if you wanna hit present and
Oh,
present your screen, you can pull that up
awesome!
if you want,
Let's
and
see.
we'll definitely put the link to this, blog post in the description as well so that you guys can, check that out for yourself.
Okay,
Um, yeah,
so I'm just
wanna
going
try
to
and pull
share
that
my
up.
screen. Oh, I
Yeah.
should put it on the other screen, shouldn't I
Oh,
absolutely should.
probably g I think
Let
you
me
can share, like, a specific window too, I think, like
Oh, awesome. All right. Then, but it again, it's called 15 money books for kids to master money by age, and it's just been fantastic. These are all books that I've kind of read and would highly recommend. So just scrolling down through, you have ages 3 to 18. Um, Sam Rennick is huge. He has lots of great resources where he used Sammy the Rabbit to teach our younger kids. We have books by 9 to 12-year-olds, Investing for Kids. I bought this book because I wanted to just see what all they included when they start talking to kids about investing and how easy it can be. We have young entrepreneurs who talk about starting a business. I mean, this is a very rich list. So I
yeah.
would recommend buying these books for your kids, gifting it to them, but great ways to just start having those money conversations in the home.
I want
So
more pizza. That's a great title.
I know, right? Yeah, so some of these are really good and really creative. And this is just, this is a short list. It's only 15 books. Of course, there are many more out there. I mean, there are books that introduce you to cryptocurrency and help parents understand Bitcoin, and you can learn alongside it right with your kids. So these are great resources.
I
And
like this one here, teach your child to fish. I
Yes. So this great workbook was written by me, and it's targeted to. It has a book that goes along with it. The book, of course, is targeted to the parent about what we should be teaching our kids about money management. And then this is a complimentary workbook just filled with some templates, activities, things that kids can actually do to reinforce the money habits that we talk about in the book. So it's been great. So
I think that's a super important way to teach your kids is to do something like this workbook with them. It's similar to is a book about pornography, but Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. It's a book
mm,
that you sit down with your child to discuss these topics. And I
yeah,
think that's the best way to really help your kids learn a topic like money management is to go through a workbook like this with them.
absolutely. That's one of the my main like goals when I'm talking to parents. Like it's not just about lecturing your kids about John, you should save more of your money or don't spend your money here. That's the kind of advice I got growing up. But
Right.
what I realized was missing was the practice, right?
Mhm.
We have to practice these, but give them an opportunity to practice it, to be a little independent, make poor choices while they have us as a safety net. Because once they are out on their own, making bigger money choices, those safety nets may not be there. And it could really impact them for years, if not decades of their lives, just trying to correct, taking on too much too soon, getting into debt, overdrafting their account. It could just lead to a laundry list of regret when if we start helping them practice it now, they feel the pain of the consequences. It will self correct, and then they will know once they are out on their own, I should do something differently, or I should make a better choice, or maybe I shouldn't overextend myself,
Right.
because they experience the consequences while they had, their parents to kind of bail them out.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I actually like we're talking about, the pornography book, the thing I talk about with technology too is kind of the same thing. Like when you still have oversight, you can teach them how to use like social media properly and things like that. But, once they're gone, they're gone. So I always relate it to like if you're going to just give your kid a credit card when they turn 18, that's like giving them social media when they turn 18,
Yeah,
like
right.
teach them while the stakes are small.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So do you know of any, like, apps or anything that, are good to help kids learn, like, budgeting and money?
Yes, absolutely. There are quite a few. One of my favorites that I promote even throughout my programming is called goalsetter.co. Goalsetter.co. And why I love this app, it's because it was started by a mom who wanted her kids to save up their money and use it for more meaningful items, right? And so she not only can you use a card to spend from the app, but the biggest highlight for me was the financial literacy component. And they do these quizzes, and the kids almost have to finish the quiz before they get access to the money. So it's forcing them to learn something, or at least to
Uh-huh.
prove that they learned something before they
At least
get
they know how to
access.
check boxes, right?
Yes. And it's a community app. So meaning you can invite family members, friends to, give kids birthday money through this app. And so it's all centralized in one space. They have access to it, can use to save it, invest it. But of course, there are so many choices out there. You got green light, you got busy kids, like if you want to attach it to kids completing chores.
Mhm.
Um, Go Henry. I'm just trying to think of some of the others, but Goal Setter is probably my top pick. I think Go Henry also has some financial literacy components to it as well. But definitely GoSetter.com. They are expanding where now they're even allowing the kids to learn about investing, which is helpful because I think it's just one of those topics that we wait too late to start talking to our kids about and helping them learn how to invest and think about investments. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. I actually haven't heard of that one. I've heard the other ones. We actually used Greenlight for a little while. Wasn't
Yeah.
a huge fan.
Oh, tell me why. I'm curious.
Yeah. So, it was good until it wasn't. Like,
Okay.
I had my kids were, setting aside money for giving and for
Hmm.
savings and things like that. But then when I wanted them to be able to give to our specific church, it wasn't one of the ones that
Oh,
were listed.
got
And
it.
so we would have to pull the money out in
Hmm.
order to give it to the church, and like it was like impossible to get that money back out without like going to like a you know just withdrawing cash
Yep,
from an
yep,
ATM or
yep,
something like that. And so I was like, I really don't like the way that is, and plus they wanted to set up like a Venmo and they couldn't do that.
yep.
um and so there's all those like kind of hurdles, and so then when I was trying to get all the money out, I literally had to reach out to them like 5 or 6 times, like because we had like about $1,000 between like the kids accounts and
Yep.
stuff in there. And like it took me months of like reaching out to like get that money back.
Yeah, yeah. That can be, like I said, if it's not easy to maneuver, it can be a quick no for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
So yeah, so I liked it until I didn't. That was
yeah, yeah. I've heard good things about it. I did a couple of TikToks like comparing pros and cons of some of the ones, and then I would get a lot of responses of people like green light, green light, green light. I'm
yeah.
like, okay, I personally haven't used green light. We've used Busy Kids, we've used Goal Setter, obviously, and I really like Goal Setter, and I just stuck with it.
I'm gonna check that one out for sure.
Yeah,
That sounds great.
yeah.
Um, so
The
we
quizzes
made
are cool. The
the
quizzes
yeah.
are like because they make them like culturally relevant or
Oh,
like
fun.
they're tied to pop culture, like things our kids are interested in. So in
Yeah.
that way, I think they get an A+ for
I
me.
love it. That's so awesome. We'll definitely check that out. So those are most of like the debit, like all of these companies, like these apps, like basically have their own debit cards.
Yeah.
Um, but is there any other like debit card options you like better for kids than
Um,
others?
I definitely like the debit card options that are specifically made for the kids, right?
Mhm.
You can go out and even Google, um, you know, best debit cards for kids, and it'll pull up a laundry list. The ones that I like, and again, it depends on your household. It depends on um, your intention when your kids are using these things. But I really like the ones where the cards are prepaid because it forces
Mm.
conversation.
Yeah.
You're
No
not
overdraft.
right. You're not just sending them money every time they ask for it. But when it's prepaid, there's a little bit more control. So for my parents, I tell them all the time, read the fine print, look for something that's going to have some parental controls. So
Mhm.
you'll know, you'll get a notification, you'll just have a little insight without totally being a helicopter
Right.
parent. Um, and what else? So read the fine print, the parental controls. Oh, and of course the fees. So just
Sure.
be wary of fees. And it's okay. It's perfectly fine to pay for these services
Mhm.
because it's again, it's a tool, it's a resource to help teach your kids responsibility around money, to give them some independence, to allow them to build some confidence around making their own choices. And with money management, this is a life skill. So this is something that they are going to be dealing with for the rest of their lives. So it's so important. I mean, it's okay to invest a little bit here, to invest $100 a year to make sure they're getting some experience, some exposure, learning some lessons along the way as they mature and grow. So don't be afraid if you see a fee and then you're like, oh no, pay for the things. We pay for Netflix. We pay
Right.
for all these streaming services. Like how many streaming services do families have
Yeah.
between Disney and Netflix and Discovery
Hulu
Plus and
and
all the
yeah.
things? So, it's okay. Pay for them to learn some responsibility, to learn how to manage their money.
Yeah, that's so funny you mentioned that because, similarly, like, people will balk at, like, a $5 subscription to, for something like, Greenlight or whatever we'll
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
And then, like, they're spending $10 a day on, like, coffee or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Exactly, exactly. And then don't think of it. Nobody thinks about the upcharge that's built into using Instacart or DoorDash
Right,
or
right.
Uber Eats, right? So that money could be repurposed
Yeah.
and used to like help educate your kids. And
Right.
yeah, so I know.
Like
It can be a tough topic, and people have different values around it, and that's fine. But I
right.
just want to say it's okay to pay.
Yeah. Well, and like we were saying earlier, like with Mint, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product.
Right.
So, with Mint, you're going to get advertised to, with something like a financial education app for your kids.
Yeah,
You don't want them getting like credit card ads and things like that.
exactly. You know what's another good tool? Another good tool, and people don't think about this. You may think, oh, I have to get my kids a debit card. But if you are in a huge household, maybe you don't think you have the time or capacity to like make sure you're watching and making sure that they have the oversight that you would want, right?
Mhm.
But there are kind of built in things now in our society. I have been having conversations with a lot of parents where their kids' school, they will have these school payment softwares for like lunch accounts
Oh,
where
uh-huh.
the parents prepay, where they put a certain dollar amount on the child's account.
Mhm.
And then the child has it for the week or the month or whatever to buy whatever they want. Well, some of the parents have been complaining because their child will, instead of buying something nutritious to eat, they will spend all the money on milkshakes or, just trash.
Right. Yeah. Right.
That's one instance. Another instance is the child tries to win influence or wins friends by buying kids other things from their lunch account,
Mhm.
right? So I was like, you know what? This is great. Like, y'all keep talking, keep telling me how this stuff works, because that's a great opportunity for parents to start these money conversations, to start teaching your kids about budgeting,
Mhm.
to share what your expectations are when it comes to spending that money. Yes, it's in your lunch account, but listen, I have to populate it every time, and I want to make sure you're eating well, you're getting full, you're getting what you need. And just having those conversations about managing that money wisely, because it is an opportunity for the kids to make independent choices, but to use the money wisely, right?
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up because that's actually something we totally experienced here in my house where, I put the money for lunch in there and he was going through it so much faster than my daughter was going through hers. And I'm like, "What is happening?" And so I noticed that he was buying breakfast every morning. And I'm
Oh,
like, "We have breakfast here. You don't need to go to school and eat breakfast. Like, what are you doing?" But that's a
yeah.
good learning opportunity to be like, "Hey, you have other options. You don't have to spend money on breakfast because we have plenty of food here so you can eat breakfast
Yep.
and you can eat lunch at school."
Right, exactly. Or grab a snack, or yeah, but that's it. But it's all about having those conversations, setting the expectations. I'm glad to hear that that's what you saw.
Yeah.
'Cause some parents aren't even paying attention, they're just getting notifications that their kid's account is low, and then they're not even paying attention to the 30, $40 that they are just, you know, sometimes wasting if the child is doing some of the other things we talked about. But, it's a great way to have that conversation around needs versus wants, prioritizing the better foods, and then you can have something sweet or the cookie or whatever it is. But yeah, no, it's a great opportunity to infuse some money lessons with your kids and to have them practicing budgeting and just thinking about their choices that they're making.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for bringing that up. But so speaking of like kids and how they use money, what do you think about all these like money transfer tools like Venmo and Cash App and
Yeah,
this is kind of how kids are living. Like how can
absolutely.
we teach them how to use that properly?
Yeah. So yes. So with these money transfer apps like Venmo, like Cash App, like even PayPal
Right.
sometimes, um, I think the biggest thing that I'm more concerned of, first of all, I know it's super convenient. Just Apple Pay your kids or send them whatever, however you guys are swapping money. But I think there's just that missed opportunity for parents to have the money conversations that should happen before the money is actually transferred over. Um, so we just have to be really intentional about it, but we also have to lean into it a little bit too, because technology is only going to grow. I think the use of cash and coins and change is going to continue to diminish. I don't know if we'll ever be cashless in nature. I
Yeah.
think we'll always have, cash floating around, but it's going to be so much easier. I mean, you've already heard about the technology even in Asia, where they are swiping their wrist or using their fingerprint, or just doing other things, or they may have a band or their fingerprints or whatever tied to some bank account to purchase things. I think Whole Foods has started testing this in certain markets. Amazon has definitely started testing it over in the West Coast, and so we got to be open and receptive to it, but we do need to be intentional and just make sure our kids understand how things work. I'll give you a prime example. One of the topics I surely cover in our money camp is talking to our kids about the difference between debit cards and credit cards, because they look very similar. They just see their parents swiping. But how do they work? And I find that many of the kids that come through don't really know how it works, how the debit card is tied to a bank account. There is no limit. Your limit is what's in your bank account, right? And once that's spent, it's gone. But understanding also the consequences of not paying the credit cards, and how the credit card is a loan and it's an IOU. You have to pay it back. You're borrowing money. You've signed up. You've made a commitment that you're going to honor, and so it's important, to do these things. So just making sure they understand how the technology works, where the money is coming from, what happens if they don't have enough, how should they handle it, right? So if they get to a place and they don't have enough money, it can be embarrassing. How do you handle it?
Right.
Like a champ.
Yeah.
Don't become sad or mad or frustrated about it, but just, oh, well, I didn't do the math, and so I got to take it back. And yeah, you got to take it back sometimes. Not,
Right.
a lot of times we just bail them out. Here's enough to cover it, but
Right.
teaching them to kind of be thoughtful and think through those things. So um, I'm fine, I'm cool with the stuff, but you also have to be aware, because in technology, there's always the possibility of scams,
Mm.
right? When you're using some of these platforms,
Oh yeah.
they've been huge, and I know just like they attack and target maybe even our elderly population, it's very easy to target and attack our young kids who still don't know all the warning signs or the links they should be clicking on, or so yeah. So just making sure it puts more weight and onus on the parents, on the
Mhm.
guardians, to make sure they understand how all of this works and what the potential dangers and consequences are when we start giving our kids access, to use things that are meant for adults.
Yeah, well, and I like what you were saying with the, like, I mean, you can do the tap and pay, of your fingerprint. It's so easy to detach, like, actual dollars to that transaction,
Yes,
even for adults.
yes. That's why we're in so much trouble.
Right.
That's why I feel this sense of urgency. Like I gotta keep talking to the kids so that they grow up to be, financially responsible and astute adults, right? Um, with money, with cash, there is absolutely a psychological connection. If something costs $100 and you give somebody $100 in cash, right? You feel the weight of that being a finite transaction. It's not coming back. But with that card, whether it's a debit card or even if it's a credit card, like knowing I don't have to pay for that until 30 days from now, or it totally removes that emotional connection that I think often is important to keep us from making stupid decisions.
Yeah.
Right? To create, to reduce that impulse buying that may happen when it comes to using, the tap to pay or the credit card. Or so even, what are the things now that they have? So they've automated layaway,
Oh,
Sizzle, Afterpay, where you can now pay it and break it up into four payments,
sure.
right? So a lot of even that, a lot of companies are offering these built-in payment plans, but you do that enough times, and then that becomes a large debt that's coming out of your account automatically. And so our young people just need to be aware of it. Even our adults, just everything in moderation. You gotta
Yeah.
you gotta look at these numbers, and know the consequences.
Yeah, I remember I saved up and I was buying a treadmill and,
Mhm.
I'm not a spendy person. I don't, spend a whole lot of money. And so I'm on the website, like, about to, like, click the, like, purchase for this, like, $2,000 treadmill, and I'm, like, having heart palpitations, like, "This is so much money.
I
I
know.
can't believe I'm doing this." Like, so I like that you talked about that emotional component is so
Mhm.
important to, like, make sure you're understanding, like, this is a lot of money that I am
Yeah.
spending right now.
Yes. And so this is a lot of things I think is so important to make sure our kids get this practice, because a lot of stuff that they ask for, they don't even know how much it costs. They don't
Right.
know that it's a whole week's worth of pay for me to buy this for you.
Right.
They have no clue. And so, the sooner we're able to allow them to start practicing, look at prices, comparison shopping, like those are still valid things that they can do today, even in the cashless world we're moving towards, even in this internet of all things. They can go to different sites to see if their favorite retailer has it on sale. So it's just so important that we start, um, giving them that room to be exposed, but to know how much things cost and what does that look like. And if you give your child allowance, how many weeks of allowance would you actually have to save up to buy it outright? So just having those conversations is so important.
I love that. So, understanding the value of money and, like,
Mhm.
understanding the difference between debit and credit, is there any other, like, really important life lessons that, like, we need to be talking to our kids about?
Yes, and this is gonna sound like not money related, but it totally is, and
Okay.
that's goal setting.
Oh, nice.
Like having our kids get in the practice of setting goals for themselves easily carries over into the financial choices and the decisions that they make, right? So, they want to go to Disneyland. Okay, let's go research. How much do those tickets cost? How many days do we want to go to the park? Do you see any deals? Or, but having them set goals around things that they want. We have them set goals when they are trying to master a sport, or, if they're athletes and, I want to make the varsity team, or, I want to be the number one pick, when it comes to, for tryouts, whatever we set goals in a lot of different areas. We should also help them set financial goals. And so easy financial goals could be, I want to save $50 this summer, and then helping them think through, okay, how can you earn $50? Is there something you enjoy doing? Are there bracelets you can make and sell? Do you love to bake or cook? Are there cookies you could sell? Or, could you cut 3 of the neighbors' yards this summer and earn the money? So just helping them think through ways that they can start earning money on their own. But goal setting is one of those things that we don't do until later. And so that muscle is really weak when it's time to do it, and can make it even more difficult, which is one of the reasons I believe we are so horrible at saving our money and investing. Really, because we live in this world where I call it the microwave society, because, literally we can press a button on our phone and the package arrives the next day.
Right.
Or we press a button on our phone and the food arrives in 20 minutes. So that delayed gratification is like lost on our kids. They want everything now, and they can pretty much have everything they want right now. So we have to force them to practice saving, practice delayed gratification, practice that self-discipline and self-control that comes from having to wait. And a lot of our kids just don't have that experience because everything is so instantaneous now. But it's a key attribute, a key lesson that our kids have to learn in order to become successful investors. Like the goal of investing is really invest and hold for a long period of time, let compound interest do its thing, and then benefit from it like decades later. But when you're 12, when you're 16, when you're 8, it's hard to think about your 30-year-old self or your 40-year-old self.
Right.
So goal setting, helping them to practice goal setting earlier in life can be one of those things that helps with that practicing of self-control and self-discipline and delayed gratification.
I love that. I totally agree. That is such a lost art these days. I mean, even us now, like, we binge an entire TV show when, in the past we'd have to like wait a week for
Guilty.
every single episode.
Guilty.
I mean, and some seasons now are doing that, like with Apple TV and Hulu, they'll like release episodes like, in a week after another. But
Yeah.
the norm now is like, just dropping the whole season, and you can like get through the whole season in like 2 days. But
Yes.
it's all that like instant gratification now.
Right. The pandemic ruined me. Like, I used to be an appointment viewer, like, oh, every Monday night I'm going to tune in. Now I'm just like, whatever, I'll let it run and I'll watch it on demand, or I'll
Right.
stream it later. I'll just pay for it to get access to it now. It's crazy.
Yeah. Totally get it. I love that. Well, is there anything that we didn't cover? Like, I think we covered quite a bit, but yeah, I'm not the best at this. This is why I call in experts. So I might have missed something.
No, I just want to thank you for the foresight or whatever it took for you to create this platform. I think the work that you do, the information that you share, is so valuable, Sarah, and so important for families, because you cover a variety of topics, which is also wonderful. So when it comes to personal finance, the one thing I just want to leave with your audience is we really have to be intentional. I've said it before, money management is just one of those life skills that are going to stick with your kids from now until eternity. And so the importance of teaching them, giving them the space and room to practice it now can really set them up for financial success. Or if you ignore it, if you choose not to address it, it can really set them back, right? Because then they'll make all the mistakes once they're gone, and it could put them into a spiral of being in debt, not building wealth. So it could just lead to a lifestyle of of want, right? Or of struggle. And that is what I'm trying to break, right? I'm trying to close the financial education gap, put all of our families on a trajectory to really earn and build real wealth so that we can have a legacy to look back on and just put the next generation in a better position, in a better position for the future. So I just thank you for inviting me on to share. And hopefully you guys find this helpful. And if you do, go ahead and let us know in the chat. Let us know if you watch the replay. And of course, always open to questions. So yeah, people have questions later, they can put them in the comments and I'll be checking it out.
Awesome. Yeah. And definitely check out her. And you're on social. What was your handle on social?
Yep. So it's the Master Playbook across all social media platforms. So I'm on YouTube, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the things. Just really trying to help parents give their kids that financial head start.
Yeah, so you can probably reach out to her too through direct messages on any
Yep.
of those platforms if you have specific questions for
Yep.
Holly. I appreciate all you're doing for financial literacy. I know I didn't have much financial literacy growing up, fell victim to the Columbia House CD scams and
I think
all
we're
of
the same generation.
probably, get all those CDs. They were super important. But so I think it's so important to teach kids about finances, just as important as it is to teach them about technology as well. So I feel like our goals are very aligned. So I was excited to have this conversation.
Yes. And so thank you again for having me. This has been wonderful.
Awesome. Well, we will see you guys next week and we will wrap it up there. So thank you and we'll see you next time.